Ashley here with Paperless Pipeline, and I am so excited today to interview the lovely Kasie Cook. Today, we're going to be talking about scaling without burnout, and Kasie's got some real nuggets of information for us. So, Kasie, before we get started, do you want to give us just a little bit of background about yourself and kind of how you got started in transaction coordination?
Absolutely. First, thank you so much for having me here. So, I've been in the real estate industry for roughly 10 years. I originally started out as a front desk admin for Windermere Real Estate in my local community here. And I fell in love with Paperless Pipeline. That was when I was first introduced to the system. But I quickly realized they weren't using it to their full capacity. And so I just kind of started digging in from there. And when I had my children a few years ago, I took a few breaks from real estate, but then now that they're a little bit older, I decided to reopen my paperless pipeline and go independent. And so since then, I've been now independent for about 3 years. And every year it's just been getting better and better. And so is pipeline.
Awesome. That's very exciting. And thanks for the Paperless Pipeline shout out there. So, as your business grew, specifically once you went independent on your own, what was the moment you realized that you need better systems if you're going to make it work long term?
So, due to my past experience, for me, that was an immediate decision.
Mm,
I knew, like, from the get-go, Pipeline was gonna have the tools that I needed to really sustain those customer accounts because previous to real estate, I used to do customer account management for a leasing company. And so being able to have a detailed place to keep all of those files as well as the communication in one location where you didn't have to search through your email just was a no-brainer. And so I didn't have to, like, go searching. I already knew Pipeline was gonna go ahead and fit the bill for me, and yeah, however, with that, I would say it took me about 6 months to get real serious about implementing all of the tools that you guys offer. So at first, I was doing a lot of it more manually before I implemented a lot of the automation. And so I'd say about 6 months before it really started to feel heavy. I'm like, okay, I need to get my documents auto naming. I need to get my auto labels and email templates. So
yeah. Really become kind of a power user then. So that leads me into our next question. How has your file capacity changed over time? Kind of as you developed these systems, have you found that you're able to take on more work or increase the number of agents that you're able to work with?
absolutely. So what's really nice about it is when I first started, I just had one agent who was a friend of mine from the past who took a chance on me, based off of my history. And so I started with just the one agent. And then over the few years, I've expanded to serving multiple agents throughout the entire Columbia River Gorge region, from like the Portland metro all the way out to like Arlington, rural Oregon over there, and able to serve both sides. And with Pipeline, I can actually get very specific with not just location, like state, but also with each agent with the auto checklists. And so, because of that, I was able to scale quite large and be more efficient in what I do. So, there's a difference between being able to just take on more clients and then being able to take on more clients and improve your system. And so, I was both getting more and relieving my workload at the same time. So, Pipeline actually provided a nice shift for me once I started implementing the automation.
So, speaking of those processes, can you kind of walk us through just a general contract to close? Like, what does that typically look like for you when you're working with an agent?
Yeah, so for me, I go a little bit broader than transaction coordination. I also do agency file management. So, especially now that buyer agency agreements are required and more prevalent, I found a lot of agents have a hard time managing those documents and requirements because it's more new to them because a lot of them would just float it.
Right.
And so I actually started the agency process. And as soon as I get the request from the agent, it goes in and I select their specific location, and then the checklist will auto populate for me. And then I color coded my steps. And so as I progress to the next step in my transaction, I'm able to see in my main transaction page, A, if it's a red light, green light, or yellow light for like how much attention it needs. Once I get it in there, then I can actually select where we're at in the status. And every status that I go forward, it gives me more of my checklist to then implement. But when I first get, say, a new contract, a new fully executed PSA, the first thing that I do after inputting all of the information and highlighting my key dates is I go through and I schedule all of my time reminder emails because my number one job really is timeline reminders as well as, compliance checks. And so being able to schedule that within the first 20 minutes of having a PSA in my hand to where I don't have to really think about it. I just have to check and maintain as addendums come in. It really saves so much more time. You take something that used to take several hours of just touching in and touch base into 20 minutes at the beginning. You don't even have to worry about it. It's on auto.
Yeah. That's awesome. Makes it easy for you and also for the agents and clients. I mean, everybody wins when you've got those kind of systems in place.
Absolutely. And I always start off with an introduction email to the clients. First, with my agents, some of them like to be more client facing and I'm more in the background. So, depending on the type of relationship we have, I either send the introduction email to the clients explaining the situation and who I am, or the agent does. And with that, we also check all of our main features as well as identifications of the property or, maybe their loan type or verifying who their lender is, getting all those little things marked off. And then once that's all complete, and we get those timeline reminder emails scheduled, then I just follow up with those email templates with those little auto tags because they save you so much double checking your spelling and making sure you didn't transpose numbers. And then once we're all said and done, I do my final email to say, thank you so much for your help. If you'd like to leave a review for the agent, I give all the agent's credentials at the bottom as well for like click access for the client to go ahead and give like a Google review and all that sort of good stuff.
Awesome. I bet the agents love that.
They do, and some of them actually implement my social media packaging in there because I also do social media management. And so, for instance, when I get a brand new listing, a lot of the times I'll have the order to go ahead and do the brochure, the coming soon, new listing, pending, and sold media, and I get that all done in one bundle and present that to the agent before the house is even live.
It's amazing. Yeah. Do you use Pipeline for that system as well for your social media? Do you keep track of it, like checklists and things like that in Pipeline also?
Absolutely. So, depending on what client, they have their own parameters of what they need for their listings. So, here in, the Dalles, Oregon, there's not a whole bunch of open houses, there's not a bunch of print media that's really needed, whereas in Portland, they do a lot more print media. So, depending on the agent, I can adjust their media package and then their list is very curated to them specifically. And then in conjunction with Pipeline helping me manage what each agent needs in their media portfolio, I also utilize Canva a lot, and that helps me kind of create the easy templates to where I could just kind of pick and choose their brand. Once it's set and built, you could just transpose everything in there, and it makes it really quick and easy. And then the agents love it because then they can actually take that link and share it to their clients before they're able to go live. And so they can get a little bit more approval, and then they can also use it in their presentation, when they're trying to really solidify that agency relationship. And then what's also nice is I use Paperless Pipeline for even non-real estate things. It's kind of segueing into the social media management. I also use it to manage the rest of my business, which is small business development and systems management and creation. And so with that, I have all my clients as an actual transaction. And so I've got all their important information in there. I've got our email correspondences in there. And some of the titles in Pipeline don't line up because, of course, they're not an agent. They're my client. But in my head, I just kind of changed that wording. But with that being said, Pipeline is my number one tool for not just managing transactions, but for managing my business.
Yeah. Well, I am super impressed, Casey. You're like the best oiled machine that I have heard about with all these systems in place and checklists. And I mean, you've really got it together. If there's someone who's going to teach about systems, I think you're probably the go to girl here. Love
Well,
to hear
it's a
that.
hobby. It's a hobby. I love systems and I love making them better. So that is the one fall is I'll get my system set up and then I'll be like, let's go ahead and tweak it a little bit. It can be even better.
Uh-huh.
And then you guys will bring up another update with even better tools or like little fixes or workarounds. I'm like, oh, we have to implement this.
Yeah. I love that. Always changing, always getting better, you and us and clients and agents and everybody. Like I said, we all win here. So that's fantastic. I love it. Um, okay, so our next question, looking at transaction coordination specifically as a business, we've gone over systems and checklists and everything. Is there anywhere you see new TCs, especially kind of getting stuck in the process?
For me, where I was the most stuck was getting consistent verbiage in my emails. So having those email templates that auto populated the information from the transaction was that for any new TC getting your email templates and understanding those tags would be the biggest game changer, because you can always manage your checklist manually because a lot of the transactions are so different. They have different addendums. I'm constantly adding another item on my checklist that's just specific to that transaction. So I'd say the checklists, though important, are almost less hindersome to maintain than having to constantly come up with all of that verbiage all the time for all of those emails that you've always got to send out. And so I would really hit heavy on any new TC to really get their emails, their templates put in, because that'll also give them reminders on what their next step is. So in a lot of my email templates, I'll actually reference what section of the PSA that email might be pertinent to. And so that gives me a little bit of a reminder to go back to the PSA, double check anything, as well as the client. So if the client is like, oh, I don't really remember this, they can easily go back and reference within their own forms.
Yeah. Love that. Very good. And I don't know if we had these in place yet when you first signed up with your trial, but Paperless Pipeline actually comes with 50 email templates already in place with autofill tags and everything now. They're not going to be as specific as yours, of course. You'll want to build them out and kind of finesse them into what you need them to be. But yeah, I agree with you completely. Those templates are a lifesaver, if for no other reason than just reducing human error, getting those numbers in right, getting the address and the names and everything in right without having to worry about those mistakes that can slip through.
And the fact that you guys provide a base level of what's really needed helps even inexperienced agents and TCs. It prompts you because sometimes you don't really know what you don't know. And
Hmm.
so we might see your prompt of, here's an earnest money reminder email. This is something I can build off of. And so you make it even that much more easy, that much more accessible to actually grow your business, because then you're not having to think about every little step. You kind of take a little bit of that mental load off.
Right. Yeah. Which is everything in this business. I mean, we've got enough mental load to deal with in a single real estate transaction. I think I know how you're going to answer this question, but if that system, if those templates were to disappear tomorrow, how much harder would your job be?
Impossible. Impossible. I have dyslexia. And so for me personally, that is like an ADA accommodation almost. So I think that that's actually a part of your system that a lot of people don't talk about, is it fits certain neurotypes so well because it can be as visual, like visually stimulating with all the color codes and the emojis as you need, or as visually minimalistic as you need. You're not locked into one type of visual format. And with that, it also makes it helps feed the dopamine cycle in the brain. So I personally get a lot of joy out of seeing all these colors and all these emojis and the labels that help my system. Just at a glance, I can tell you instantly without even having to read anything. And so
Hmm.
between that and like if the email templates went away, I would have so many more errors. My E&O insurance would go through the roof just because of, transposing, letters or numbers and stuff like that. And so if the templates went away, you can kind of put a Band-Aid on it by using like Google templates or, your templates built inside your email system. But they're not going to pull information for you. You're still going to have to do the legwork on it. And honestly, their templates are really hard to organize when you have so many.
Right. Yeah,
Whereas with your guys'
absolutely.
templates, I actually am able to assign them an emoji in conjunction when I name it, which allows me to do a hotkey between my sellers or my buyers or particular agent and whatnot. And so it's identifiable without having to use a whole bunch of words.
Yeah. Awesome. That is so cool. Yeah, I haven't ever considered it from the kind of neuro spicy world, to think about the different ways that we can simplify things or, just make them more exciting. Like you said, that dopamine hit, checking off those tasks, seeing that fully complete checklist, seeing those colors and just the satisfaction of knowing that you did it and you didn't make any mistakes, I think is huge. So love that. Very cool. Okay, so let's lean a little bit more into burnout. Have you in your business so far experienced any burnout? And if so, what were some of the early signs that kind of alerted you to that fact?
I think burnout's almost inevitable. I think we all experience burnout. It's a very human emotion because it's something that protects us. One thing that I really noticed is when I start feeling burnout, I get a little bit more demand avoidance. I get a little bit more like I go into ostrich mode. How
Yeah.
I put
Clear
my
your
head
head.
I just smooth over and I get a little and which then feeds the anxiety portion of the burnout, which can then perpetuate it.
Mhm.
But again, this was like that big turning point when I started using my template emails through you guys with the little tags is because even if I was experiencing burnout due to things that weren't work related, work still had its flow that was already automated before burnout even was on the horizon. And so it helps mitigate that anxiety that you can feel even when you are experiencing burnout. But I'll say burnout has gone down a significant amount. In the beginning, I had a lot more burnout because I was still like learning how to run my business, how to gain new clients. But as I grew, like I said, I was doing more while also simultaneously feeling like I was doing less. And it's because I was getting more efficient, which was also guarding me against burnout. But even though I'm a workaholic, I have to tell myself it's okay to stop and relax. And with Pipeline having that so much automation built in there, I am able to step away and relax because I know that earnest money reminder is already scheduled. I don't have to worry about it at 2 o'clock.
Yeah, awesome. So do you have any other kind of boundaries that you've put in place as far as like communication hours or file limits? Do you work on weekends?
So that's kind of a loaded question.
Sorry
We
about
all
that.
say that we don't want to work, evenings or the weekends, but we always make those exceptions because some files call for it. So I have my tentative boundary, which is I typically operate between 8 in the morning till about 3 in the afternoon because after that point, it's like crazy chaos with the kids. I've got a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old.
Wow.
So it's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Um, and I always tell my agents any documents received before 3 p.m. will then be processed that day. If it's received after that time, it'll go into the next business day. With that being said, there are always those transactions where it's like really important, last moment signature, things outside of everyone's control. And the agents trust me to help them when they are needing it the most. And so if it's a low priority thing, it's not really time sensitive. Yes, next business day. However, to maintain agent relationship, to keep a proper timeline, and if there was literally no other way around it, of course, I'm gonna send that addendum out for signatures at 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And that's also because a lot of it's reciprocal. My agents care about me, I care about them. We've built a relationship sort of business versus just a transactional one. Whereas a lot of TC, the companies, they are more online, just hey, send it in, type us the info in the form, and we got you covered. And I believe real estate's definitely more of a relationship business. And so being able to have those clients who are also your friends who it's just a symbiotic.
Yeah.
That's a great word for it. It's a symbiotic sort of relationship.
Yeah. And I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, real estate is so relational. And when you've got systems in place and things to help you kind of manage the work side of it, you don't have to be so bureaucratic, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word, but you can be a little bit, more personal with those relationships. And like you said, build that trust in each other and kind of, reach back and forth and help each other out when it's needed. So I love that answer. I hope that you do take lots of time off when you're able to, however. But yeah, I love that you're there for them when they need you and that they can trust you in that for sure. All right. So thinking about growth and like looking ahead, your business in the future, how do you decide when it is a good time to add more clients or bring in help or grow your business in any other way?
I feel like when the timing is right, a lot of the times the universe presents opportunities to you. And if the timing's right, you're receptive to them. And so I've been really fortunate, and a lot of my growth has actually just come very serendipitous. Just kind of bumping into people at the store, just reigniting what I used to do and building off of prior reputation. But when I start feeling like things are going stagnant and I'm still busy, like my workload's not decreased, but my system has gotten better to where I'm feeling stagnant, I start feeling restless. That's also my cue to be more receptive of those opportunities that are always around us.
Yeah. Very cool. I love that. You are like the perfect example of systems and vibes, like the Venn diagram. I mean, you're right there in the middle. Like you're hitting it all. That is so fantastic. Okay, so last question I've got for you here before a few kind of fun rapid fire questions. If somebody was starting out, a new TC, and they wanted to grow their business, what do you think is the most important thing that they should focus on first thing above all else?
Above all else, you need to know your contract.
Good one. Yeah.
You can't set up a system or maintain a system around contracts you don't understand. And so, even if you need to go back and constantly look at that contract every single day, or double reference it and look at like the specifics of timelines. For instance, Washington is a great example of that. A lot of people think Washington general rule of thumb is its calendar days instead of business days. In Oregon, like they count business days, which makes a lot of sense. But in Washington, they count by calendar days, unless it's during the first 5 days of the period. But you only know that if you read the fine print of the contract at the very end when they're in the counting time section. So, not just looking at the important parts that are pertinent to your data entry, but also understanding the fine print at the end of the contract, the definitions themselves, because as things pop up in the transaction, like when you get your title report and everything like that, you're going to need to know when to actually add those things or what to really look for. Same with little nuances, like federal nuances, like the lead based paint. Really, even if you're not going and getting your license, which I was really fortunate, I worked for a great company that has wonderful tools for helping, new agents onboarding. I was also able to become a licensed agent for a while. And so I was really fortunate in that manner, but I would say what I do would be so much more difficult if I didn't have that base understanding. So even if you're not wanting to get licensed as a realtor, as an agent, you still want to know the legalities that they have to follow, as well as, what their licensing is supposed to encompass, because there's a lot of parameters that you can't cross as a TC
Hmm.
because it falls under licensed duties. And you can get in trouble, your agent can get in trouble. And so you need to really understand a lot of real estate law.
Yeah.
And also more importantly, how to reference or find the answer. Because if we're never going to know anything, the best thing for you to do is to know where to find the information when you need it.
Yeah.
But yeah, knowing your contracts.
Oh, that's such a good answer. And it's so complicated too because they're different. Like you said, depending on which state you're in or which jurisdiction, you've really got to, like you said, read the fine print, understand the dates, understand the rules, and also what you're able to do legally. So love that. That is not what I expected out of you, but it is the perfect answer. So well done.
And they change the contracts, the forms almost yearly. Sometimes they'll throw an update mid year. And I was blessed to have an agent, Mike Woodside. He's no longer with us. And he was in real estate for like 30 years. And he'd often say something like, I've been in real estate for 30 years and it feels like it's been 31st years.
Oh,
Because every year, like something was different. And he started back in the analog era before they really did the computers, they were hard faxing to modern. He just recently retired and everything. So he was a wealth of knowledge as far as real estate. And for him to be in this industry for so long, to say that every single year has felt almost like a new year based off of the forms alone should tell you how important they are.
yeah. Ever changing. That's such great advice. I love that, Casey. Thank you. Okay. I've got just a couple of kind of fun rapid fire questions for you. Yeah. Take a drink of the coffee. Get yourself ready for this one. Okay. You ready? First thing, how many browser tabs do you have open right now?
7.
7. Okay. Pretty good. Pretty respectable. One screen, two screens.
The one screen.
Well done. Okay. Next question. What is the fastest way for a TC to lose an agent client?
Not respond to them
Mm-hmm.
and not own up to your mistakes. So if you make a mistake, you gotta, apologize. You gotta, do what you need to do to amend that. So for instance, if you make a silly little error, like you accidentally clicked the wrong, you know, things happen. funny things
Yeah,
happen. So I'd say just like owning up to your mistakes and just being upfront and honest about your limitations.
good one. Yeah. Okay. Switching it around a little bit, if you could talk to an agent, what is one thing an agent could do that would make a TC's life so much easier?
Get us the lender information.
Yes.
The big one. Just being forthcoming with contact information. So, for instance, if there's a title company in particular, you have a particular officer instead of it just being sent to the main title company to then be dispersed to one of their officers. Now, let us know that. Definitely make sure we've got your contacts information for your client so that way we can communicate that appropriately. So, just making sure contact information is communicated because if we don't have that, we can't really do our job.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good one. Okay. What's your favorite highlighter color?
Green.
Green. I like it. Okay. And then last one, what is your go to email sign off?
Usually it's just a thank you. Yeah, it's short, it's simple. Every now and then I'll do best wishes. If it's more of like a cheers, happy, like more of the ending of the transaction sort of thing, because it's more of a final sentence for me. Best wishes kind of seems more final than thank you. Because with thank you, I'm usually going to be emailing them another 3 times.
Right. Thank them in advance. Like, hey, we're going to be talking a lot. So that's awesome. Well, Casey, this has been so much fun. Before we go, do you have any final parting words of wisdom or advice or anything else that you would offer to new TCs or just TCs who are looking to grow?
My goodness.
Another loaded question, right?
I would say just stick with pipeline. That's my go-to for everything. But there's been a lot of, interesting alternates out there, and I've been fortunate I've been able to dabble in them, and I still pipeline's the most intuitive. And so I would say anyone looking to grow, just at least get your systems in order and keep on them. Once you start to slide on them, then it's really hard to get caught back up. But what's really nice about pipeline is they always have that built-in fail-safe because even if you fall off on one transaction of getting your timeline emails out when you want them to, the next transaction's almost like a blank slate with your fresh system. And so it can really relieve a lot of anxiety that way too, because you don't have to be perfect every time, but pipeline is perfect every time.